Thank you for joining us today for our webcast on the power of community, leveraging the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance for improving ethics and compliance programs. Before I hand the phone over to Randy Klatt, our Vice President of Ethisphere Services, there are a few housekeeping items I'd like to cover. First of all, this webcast recording and presentation will be made available to all attendees and registrants after the webcast, so look for an email later this week. Also, if you have any questions, we'd love to take your questions. Just submit them through the chat function and we will make sure that we get them answered. If we don't get to your question today, we will be certain to follow up after the webcast. So without anything else to cover, Randy, if you'd like to kick us off.
Well, great. Thank you, Clea. Really appreciate your introduction there, and welcome to our participants. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us. Good morning and good afternoon or good evening, wherever you're joining us from. As Clea mentioned, today we'll be talking about the power of community, leveraging the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance, or as we call it, BELA, for improving the ethics and the compliance programs. I'm most excited to learn about the best practices and how two of our members, the Hartford and Fifth Third Bank, are utilizing their Business Ethics Leadership Alliance membership, talking about some of their best practices from the ethics and the compliance programs. So what I'd like to do is start by introducing our participants in today's discussion. First, Susan Castaneda. She is the Assistant Vice President of Enterprise Compliance for the Hartford. She has over 25 years of experience in the insurance industry, serving in a number of operational, sales, underwriting, and compliance leadership roles. She leads a team who is responsible for corporate compliance functions, including corporate compliance standards and programs, compliance data analytics, regulatory affairs, the ethics officer, and training and awareness. She's also the compliance officer for the Enterprise Data Organization, the Corporate Technology Office, and she's responsible for strategic sourcing in real estate. So Susan, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you.
And so Erins Straits is also joining us, and she is the Senior Vice President and Chief Ethics Officer at Fifth Third Bank. She leads the Ethics Office under the Risk Management Division. Her responsibilities include governance, oversight of misconduct, reporting, monitoring, and of course, training and awareness around culture and conduct. Over 15 years of experience in risk management, compliance, and ethics. And prior to joining the ethics office, she held various roles at Fifth Third Bank in the Enterprise Risk Management Division, including Director of Vendor Risk Management, Enterprise and Operational Risk Senior Manager, as well of the Consumer Bank. So, Erin, I appreciate your participation today as well.
Thank you, Randy.
So, I'd like to get started. I'd like to start today's discussion with just maybe a few questions for Susan and Erin. And Susan, we'll start with you. But so the audience has kind of a bit of context for your comments. Can you give us a kind of a quick overview of how your ethics and your compliance program is structured? Maybe a couple of initiatives that you're working on. One thing that you're really focused on for 2019.
Sure, great. So we actually report into the CEO of the Hartford, and we are the corporate compliance function. And then we have separate sections throughout the company based on the different lines of business that also have compliance teams. In fact, there's a group of about 80 of us total that report up to our corporate ethics and compliance officer. And my team is really structured to handle the ethics office, really the work that we do to establish the culture for the company, whether that be training and communications, whether that be our policies and standards, and even having meaningful data and analytics in order to drive business decisions either around the efficiency of our compliance programs, using our risk assessment process that we manage to make sure that we're deploying our compliance resources to the right parts of the company where the greatest risk lies. And then we've got folks who are responding directly to our regulators, either through a market conduct exam where they're coming in and looking at us, or through a complaint or some other inquiry. We have the folks that really are dealing with those one-on-one regulator escalated customer issues. And we really use the data from that to improve our overall practices as a company and to continue to button down any areas where we may not be fully compliant. So there's a lot of variety within our corporate compliance team. A couple of our areas of focus this year are really driving culture at our lower tiers, so our more entry-level positions. The Hartford has also acquired a couple of new businesses, and we recently announced our intention to purchase Navigators, which is another insurance carrier. And what we know in surveying and getting out there and doing roadshows and communicating with some of our employees that come over with those acquisitions is that they just haven't fully connected to the culture necessarily, and they may not feel that degree of confidence around speaking up and coming forward if they see an issue. So one of our primary focuses is figuring out a way to really connect with our more entry-level employees and also make sure that that really strong culture that the Hartford has spent 200 years growing is alive and well within those new acquisitions that we've brought on board. And then the other piece of our primary focus, sorry, Randy, is you can't tell I love what I do. The other thing that I would say is that data and analytics and really being able to use meaningful data and information to make business decisions and to show the value of our compliance program, and in some ways to really show our business partners what they're getting for those resources that they help to pay for, is a critical component of what we're doing, and we're really trying to modernize our approach based on that.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing that. And Erin, how about yourself?
Yeah, so the ethics office at Fifth Third Bank, it rolls into, as you mentioned, Randy, the chief risk officer of the bank, and we're really focused on governance, ensuring we have the right policies in place, as well as a robust code of business conduct and ethics. We are very focused on reporting and analytics. So we recently rolled out in 2018 a new dashboard called the Conduct Risk Dashboard, and it connects the dots across key conduct metrics in the company. And then we look for hotspots based on region or lines of business that, based on the metrics, are telling us that we needed to dig deeper. So we're continuing to focus on that and other data elements that we can pull into that dashboard to ensure that we're analyzing the appropriate metrics, and then also reporting those out to the appropriate committees. We also have responsibility for the ethics line, so ensuring the appropriate oversight of investigations are conducted, that they're timely, and that we are communicating and ensuring our employees understand that process, and that they can, choose to remain anonymous, and ensuring that they feel comfortable in raising their hand. And then we also have a strong focus on communications and training. We rolled out, we had many different compliance trainings, but we had in 2018 our first ever code of conduct training, where it was very focused on examples of how you apply the quote unquote doing the right thing. So that was really describes our organization. I will say our focus for 2019 is around conflicts of interest. In 2018, we rolled out our first ever annual conflicts of interest disclosure process. So previous to that, we have a conflicts council where employees can proactively bring potential conflicts forward, but we weren't doing an annual survey, making sure that we understood and were asking the question of all employees. So we rolled that out, and we will continue to look at the scope of the questions that we're asking and the areas that we're focused on, and then based on that data, determine if there's any changes that are needed. So that's a huge focus for 2019, as well as continuing the education and just around the training and awareness of the importance of ethics, and integrity is one of our core values, and making sure that everyone understands really that application, not just saying it, but how do we apply that in our everyday business across the enterprise and all lines of business.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you for that context. I heard some common themes from the both of you, and that's, around data analytics and the use of data within your organizations, and looking at that risk assessment process, and of course, too, training and communication. So again, thank you for that overview. I'd like to provide a brief introduction of the BELA to our attendees today. The Business Ethics Leadership Alliance was created in the wake of the 2008 financial crisis. We were asked by our customers to create a community where we could bring together like-minded professionals who are committed to building an environment in which best practices and resources are shared. Today, our community is over 250 organizations, a wide range of members. We've got large multinationals, we have domestic public companies, private companies, nonprofits, and nonprofit organizations. And Ethisphere is really proud to kind of foster these relationships and bring together these ethics and compliance executives, general counsels, corporate secretaries, and those who are responsible for really implementing the program, kind of that tactical implementation of implementing the program. So I'm always amazed at this community's willingness to share best practices on program implementation. One of our favorite quotes here at Ethisphere is from one of our members who says that there is no competition when it comes to compliance. And so we really appreciate that. What we're seeing is a common goal of the professionals that we work with is that they're on a continuous path of program improvement. And the BELA organization supports the members with benefits. So what this slide here does is kind of a high-level overview of a few of the benefits to membership. Our mission here at Ethisphere is to provide a group of products and services and resources that align with a roadmap that you may need support in developing, or a roadmap that you're executing upon. One of the fastest growing benefits I'd like to just highlight is that of the ethical culture assessment. And that is where we bring able to provide data-driven insights, analyzed at a demographic level into how employees perceive the effectiveness of their ethics and their compliance program. So with that said, let's turn now to kind of different ways we're engaging with the BELA community. And I'd love to hear from Susan and from Erin about how you've utilized some of those resources that are available to you, and how you found value from them. I know both of you have taken advantage of our benchmarking exercise. This is an available membership benefit that is really historically recognized as one of the most valuable components of membership. Opportunity to benchmark your program against our world's most ethical companies data set, and against your peer group as well. So Erin, I'd love to start with you. Can you talk a little bit about how you approach that benchmarking exercise, what the interaction was like, and how you utilize the results?
Absolutely. So first, just going through the process of each component and going through the questions, it really gives you time to think about, as you're answering the questions, where your program stands, because it's easy to see what the best practice response is. So as you're developing your strategy and understanding where your focus items are, just going through that process to begin with and filling it out is very helpful, because it gives you a good understanding of where the big rocks are in terms of where you want to focus for the year. And then when you get the results back, it validates, where do you stand against your peers within the same industry, and then just against the world's most ethical companies. And that is great information as you are going through the organization and getting the support that's needed, or funding, or if you want to change a process, to be able to show, here's what is happening in the environment today in other companies, here's where they're focused, and here's potentially where we have some opportunity to enhance or even build a process that we weren't looking at before. So I think it really helps there's so much in this space, and so understanding and organizing, what you can chip at and get, results and drive them quickly. This really gives you that tool to do that, so it doesn't feel so cumbersome, and you don't feel so burdened with, oh my gosh, where's my focus going to be? It allows you to really understand what are the best practices and then take that to build your business case. So I found the whole process extremely valuable and helpful.
Great, and glad to hear that you're utilizing those results to really engage your senior leadership, to engage your board of directors, and again, as you say, make that business case for the goals that you have to improve your program. So Susan, love to hear about how you have utilized the results as well.
Yeah, so I would say very similar to Erin, and I would just add a little bit more color. So we love the meeting where you actually sit down and walk through the benchmarking survey, and we're able to ask clarifying questions and even talk about some of the things that we've had on our minds with those experts in the room and get their ideas and their feedback and reactions. So that's been an invaluable part of that, is having those experts on the phone and really getting those sort of creative ideas. Similarly, we use our reports to sit down with our larger compliance organization, and we really talk to them about the hot spots that we're seeing, the areas where we are not as strong as some of the other companies. And we're really using the report itself to do what a SWOT analysis. So we assess our own program against these results. We come up with priorities, and we will update our 3 to 5 year strategy based on what we're seeing in those results. And then the other piece of it that I would share is that there's a level of granularity in the feedback that I think is very helpful compared to a lot of other benchmarking surveys where you get sort of these high level categories where you might not be doing as well. Some of the specific sort of areas and questions that you see within the benchmarking report really help you. You might overall be doing okay in communications, but there may be 1 or 2 things where you really could work on improving your program. So it keeps you from resting on your laurels that at the highest category level you're performing strong, and it gives you that granularity so that you can really continue to drive program improvement.
Well, thank you for that, Susan. I really appreciate it, and glad to hear that, not only is this exercise really helping kind of identify those gaps or those areas of improvement, but also too, our clients tell us that, it really validates some of the efforts that they may have in place already. So we really appreciate that, and glad to hear that you're seeing that level of granularity that really helps you with your future initiatives. So also one thing that I know that you both took advantage of or partnered with Ethisphere on is you actually both hosted a roundtable. And for, again, our participants, what Ethisphere does is, again, to foster this community, we bring together smaller roundtable discussions where we bring together ethics and compliance professionals in a intimate setting to, again, share best practices and share ideas. In 2019, the BELA community will offer roughly 35 of these roundtable events across the globe. And I'd love to hear about your experiences, what your how maybe it helped elevate the program, and again, just your overall experiences of hosting those roundtables. So maybe Erin, I'll start with you, and if you could talk a little bit about your experience and what you got out of it.
Yes. So the roundtable was, I thought, a really great experience in the sense that you're meeting with a lot of your local compliance and ethics professionals. So, Randy did a great job of ensuring we had different participants within, the Ohio region from different companies, different industries. And so it's bringing us all together and one, just building those relationships. It's great to pick up the phone and be able to call people, but now we have a community within, the Cincinnati area where I'm located, where, you can grab lunch or coffee and continue the dialogue and conversations from the roundtable. So we also, there was 3 different presentations during our roundtable from different companies across, the city, and they were able to share best practices on what they were doing so that we could learn. One was a hospital, but they talked about privacy, and that's still very relevant in the banking industry. So it really allowed us to understand in a lot of detail what other companies were doing, and then we had those connections because we met in person to be able to then carry those forward. And I have, and my colleague Stephanie have kept in touch with, many of the people we met that day, and they still are picking up the phone and calling us saying, hey, can you share with us how you were able to create this dashboard or, the things that we presented on that day. So it was a really successful roundtable, and I think it just really forged great relationships with people in this, in this sector of ethics and compliance.
Thanks for sharing that, Erin. I do remember that was a great event, a great opportunity to kind of both internally and externally, there locally, kind of shine the light on the work that you're doing, and glad to hear that you found value in kind of that cross-industry discussion. So, Susan, would love to hear about your experiences as well as hosting an event.
Absolutely. So I would begin by commenting on what a great job that the folks from BELA did in actually organizing it. So there was very little effort on our part to actually host the event. So if someone is pausing and thinking about it because they think it'll be too much for them or their support staff, it really didn't end up taking much time away from our other day-to-day duties, but it really was a great opportunity to sort of showcase our program. We were proud to have people come to our facility and meet with us and meet those local individuals. And then we, have already experienced 2 really nice business outcomes as a result of the agenda that we went through. So one of them is we had an individual who spoke about GDPR, and she was just also starting to grapple with the California Consumer Privacy Act, which I'm sure many of the folks on the phone are also at some point going to deal with. And so it was wonderful to hear her speak about her experiences and really have a free-flowing conversation, because this isn't a super formal event. There was an opportunity to really ask a lot of questions and dig deeper, and the group really spent a lot of time in dialogue, which I thought was awesome. And we've since had some follow-up conversations with that individual, and she was really generous with her time and I think really proud of the work that she had done. And it was helpful to us to be able to move forward with some of the things that we're working on at the Hartford. And then the second piece of it is there was a discussion on data and analytics and the use of Tableau reporting and how that's used to drive compliance decision making. And the individual that came into the discussion actually has, an incredible background in data and analytics. And my data scientist, who's early in her career, was just so impressed by the discussion and the information that he provided. And he's been a willing mentor of hers, and she's had a few follow-up conversations with him and really talked to him about some of the data visualizations that she's building and how she might go about creating a sense of community around the use of compliance data within the San Antonio area where she physically resides. And it's just been really helpful to have that connection to somebody else within this community.
Hey, Randy.
Yeah, yes.
Before we move on, we did have a question from the floor about where folks could see a listing of upcoming events, specifically any happening in Canada in the near future.
Fantastic. Yes, please visit ethisphere.com, and there is an events page there which we will list all of our upcoming events. So thank you very much for that question, Clea. And please, I'd just like to just reiterate, love to hear from the community here, or from the participants. And if you have any questions whatsoever, just please utilize the chat function. Erin, I wanted to come back to you. Again, the Ethisphere is really focused on creating this community and opportunities to network. It's my understanding you've joined with others in the financial services industry for periodic informal meetings and kind of information sharing. Can you tell me how that works?
Sure. So actually through the Ethisphere's conference last March, which is coming up again this March, I was able to connect with some others in banking. And so we formed almost our own little benchmarking team where, it's very informal. If we are, have a question or we're dealing with a situation in terms of, a direction or a strategy, we just shoot off an email to this team and, just to understand what others are doing. We also hosted, we had an all-day meeting with this team at Fifth Third and just spent the day going through our programs. Compliance is obviously a very big piece of banking, but ethics is the ethics office was newer in some of these organizations. So we had all had the components of a code of conduct and an ethics line and so forth, but we were all pulling that together about 2 years ago is when a lot of us were forming that. So it really gave us the opportunity to, understand in our sector what we were all facing, because we all have the same compliance regulations. And so how does the ethics piece fit into that in understanding just the framework, the setup, governance. And so it really has been a great just team to be able to run things by quickly and get their feedback or understanding what challenges or opportunities or successes that they are having within their own organization. So, that conference really allowed us to, like you said, forge and meet people that have become not only, great colleagues, but just friends as well.
Yeah, that's great. Glad to hear that. And to build that kind of that subgroup within BELA is really exciting for us here at Ethisphere. So what I'd like to do now is kind of talk about how you folks are actually engaging with our resources, right? So for those in the audience, the BELA Resource Center, which is a members-only research site, has a host of materials for the membership to access. There's research here, there's white papers, there's data, and presentations that we provide to the community. And perhaps the most valuable section of this is contributed content by our member companies, which is actual work product that you can download and use within your organization. There's examples like manager toolkits and sample policies and board training, board presentation templates, and the like. So Erin, I'd love to start with you. I mean, have you visited the site and what have you used in the past and how did you use it?
Sure. So first, there's a really great example of a board presentation. And so, I pulled that down and just, compared it to what we were doing, got some ideas of different metrics that we weren't looking at. So it was really good as we were developing some of our new reporting, just to give us a baseline and understanding of what, others were doing. So that was very helpful. Additionally, there was a presentation on conflicts of interest. So as we were rolling that annual disclosure process that I talked about in the beginning out to the organization, I was able to pull, that presentation, which had a lot of good facts, and a lot of the information came from the Ethisphere benchmarking. So it gave just very hard data on, what the industry was doing and then what the world's most ethical companies were doing. So it was, and then it had other context. So it was really good, great information. I'd also say, there's information out there that potentially I don't have the responsibility for. For instance, Starbucks had their inclusion and diversity training that they had launched last year out there. And so I'm able to pull that information as well and then disperse it to the appropriate people throughout the organization because there just is really great, valuable information that even falls outside of the ethics and compliance space, but has an impact on our area. So I felt that, it's a really great resource to be able to go to quickly. It's easy to access. It's been a very great resource for our program.
Well, I know that our team will be very excited to hear that not only are you able to collaborate across the community, across the industry, but, allowing us to support you to collaborate across Fifth Third and collaborate with your other colleagues within your organization. That's exciting. So, Susan, I'd love to hear from you about some of the resources you've utilized and maybe if it saved you some time and some effort in building materials within your organization.
Yeah, so similar to Erin, it's a great go-to spot for my group. When we're starting to think about a business challenge that we need to solve, or we're sitting down and looking at our strategic plan and specifically putting pen to paper on our goals for the year. If we want to improve in a particular area, we'll go to the BELA site and look for resources and materials that are helpful. So one of the things that we really loved were some infographics that were shared generously by another member company on issues that within their company, and we were able to take that, not necessarily use exactly what the topic that they were displaying, but it really helped us imagine things in a different way than how we had been doing things in the past, and it really got the creative juices flowing. Similarly, we knew, and I mentioned it earlier, that we needed to address speaking up as a challenge with some of our more entry-level employees. And in some cases, these are individuals who are working in call centers. They're out on busy floors where they don't have a great deal of privacy. And we were really challenged to make sure that those individuals knew where to go if they had a specific ethics or compliance concern. And, if they didn't want to do it from a busy office, would they have that information at their fingertips in order to report something? And by sitting down one afternoon with my team and some of our folks in our marketing area and just really going through the BELA site and looking at different examples and different reports, it sparked a creative idea to actually do a mailer to the home of all of our employees. And believe it or not, we mailed it out to about 18,000 people. I think the total cost for sending it out, developing a mailer, which, by the way, this mailer that really talked about speaking up and the Hartfords values around wanting to address issues included a sticker. And that sticker we asked employees to either place on their company issued laptop or on their badge so that they had all of that reporting information available to them at their fingertips. And we actually shared it on the BELA site. It's out there today. We got incredibly good feedback from our employees. It's really exciting to walk around the office and see people walking into the building with their laptop and that sticker's on there. And our goal really was to have it be in a place that if an employee was home, not able to sleep because they were worried about a particular issue, that they had access to that information and they were able to call our hotline and report it. And we just wanted to make sure that people were seeing that commitment in a different context, and that we know that if we communicate things in a variety of ways, that people will be more likely to remember and do something about it. So, all of that creativity really came from what we saw from a lot of other member companies on the BELA site. And then the last piece that I would share is that there are great videos and podcasts out there. And one of the things that I know I personally have not been the best at over the years is making sure that I'm taking care of and feeding my own employees within the ethics and compliance team to make sure that they're continuing to develop their perspective and thought leadership on ethics issues. And so there's lots of videos and blogs and snippets that you can use in your own staff meetings to further the development of your own people.
That's fantastic. Really appreciate those comments, and again, thank you for sharing that mailer with the community. Speaking up is on top of mind with a lot of our members and with a lot of people in the industry, and we really appreciate you sharing that. and also, too, talking about development of your team. And that leads into another one of our membership benefits, and that's what we call the concierge service, if you will. So not only do we receive questions and requests for support from the BELA community here at Ethisphere, we actually utilize what we call a concierge service. Each of our members has a engagement manager who is responsible for ensuring that our members are enjoying the full value of membership. And so we receive questions from the community. And also, too, within the community, we have a mentor program. So I'd love to start with just two quick questions for Erin. Number one, I know you are one of our mentors, and we appreciate that. And I'd also like to, I'd like to ask about your experience with that, and if you've taken calls from folks, and then also too, if you've ever utilized our concierge service, where you're reaching out to your BELA engagement manager asking for support.
Sure. So, yes, I think that the Ethisphere team has done a wonderful job of ensuring, as companies have questions. They've definitely put them in touch with me. And, if I'm not the person that can answer that question for the company, I'm able to put them in contact with the right person at Fifth Third. But Ethisphere has done a really great job of, utilizing this service. I would say the interesting part is, and oftentimes when someone has called me with a question from a different company, then you get to talking, and then they end up answering questions that I didn't even realize potentially I had, just learning about their program and learning about what they're doing. So it almost becomes, even though we're listed as a mentor, I often find times that, I'm learning a lot just, because they're reaching out to me, and it prompts you to think about a topic or something that, you're working on right at that moment. Like, oh, what do you do about this, by the way? So I definitely think it's a resource that, one that I need to continue to use more, because I do think, it's a really great way, again, to connect. And I think the Ethisphere team definitely does a great job of they've reached out to me many times to talk with, companies across the country. So I think it's a great resource as well.
So Susan, I'd love to hear about your experience. If we've been able to connect you with other compliance officers or support you with a specific project, love to hear your experiences with working with the concierge.
Yeah, so we definitely have called the BELA Concierge folks, asked questions, asked about different resources that might be available, and definitely found it incredibly useful to use them as a sounding board. I think the last few times we've talked to someone, they were actually able to point out resources that were already on the BELA site, which was wonderful. And then also have been able to provide some ideas or some thoughts on handling other issues. I have not taken advantage yet of the mentoring component of it, but I have a couple of little things I'm working on right now, so I'm sort of excited about doing that. Yeah,
fantastic. Fantastic. And if I remember correctly, there was an award that you had received within your organization. And did the concierge organization help you with that?
Yeah. So we actually have an award for leadership done by a project team that you can apply for on an annual basis internal to the company. And this year, the Ethics and Compliance Week team actually won that award, which was pretty exciting, because you can imagine often the project team awards are more geared towards folks that have really concrete financial business results that they're able to articulate. And in this particular case, it was because our Ethics and Compliance Week was incredibly creative. And we just did an amazing job of engaging people across multiple field offices. And we actually hosted the largest event we've ever had, a voluntary event that really came from a conversation with some of our partners at BELA And that was around how we could bring maybe a new creative approach to talking about ethics within the workplace and engage people of multiple generations and that sort of thing. And we ended up using a documentary that we were pointed in the direction on. And that documentary and the discussion that came out of that was actually attended by over 600 people. Which is really unheard of for, an hour-and-a-half event that is absolutely voluntary in the middle of a workday. So we were pretty excited about that, and we've videoed it and have since it's been shared across multiple meetings and offices within our company. And that really came from that creative conversation around what could we do new or differently relative to our Ethics and Compliance Week with our BELA Concierge.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I know all of a lot of the professionals that we're working with, they're struggling to engage their employees, and so glad to hear that that was a benefit. That was a benefit. So the next thing I wanted to highlight, and this is just kind of circling back on our a couple of comments that you both made earlier, and that was the importance of data and the use of data analytics in your programs now. And the one thing I just wanted to highlight is, again, as a member of the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance, we offer what we call focus facts. And here is where companies can reach out to you for use of specific data pulled from our world's most ethical companies data set. This is data that can help you advance an initiative, or it could be used to see how other global companies are enacting specific components of their compliance programs. So want to just be aware that, again, the custom data slices, if you will, are available to the community. They are available for, again, just helping you advance anything that you might be working on within the program. So we have custom data slices, and then we also have slices that are already available to the community in the more popular questions that we've been getting coming in. So Erin and Susan, I don't know if you've used those focus facts yet, but happy to hear from you if you had in the past.
This is Erin. I have not, but I definitely have it on my list as something I need to start using.
And what I would say about just focus facts and some of the resources relative to data and analytics, they've actually helped me narrow the funnel. I think many of us who are asked to do things like measure culture were sort of forced to look at things like hotline reporting, whether or not hotline reporting was substantiated. We use things like execution of training, execution of code of conduct, certifications, those sorts of things. And I know some of our business partners were really pushing us to come up with magical other ways to measure the culture. We use employee survey. Those are all pretty, generic items that many of us have at our fingertips and are able to use to give that overall a scorecard or health of your culture. But we were really being challenged to come up with new things and just really engaging with the BELA community at the event last year in New York in March, and looking at some of the fact sheets and other data reporting that was shared through the site. I was able to see that there really aren't that many other magical elements being used today. And it allowed us to get more crisp about using the data that we had and the underlying data, and spending more of our time on the root cause and driving the improvement to the culture than trying to come up with very difficult data elements to measure and to maintain, so that we had 25 items on our scorecard instead of 4 or 5. So I think it can actually help you in another way, which is to help you realize that you're not alone in that there aren't 20 metrics for every single issue that you're faced with, and being able to talk about that with other members of the community is very helpful. And it certainly helped me convince our senior leadership team that we were on the right track.
Yeah, fantastic. It's one of our missions here at Ethisphere is to provide those data-driven insights, the quantitative approach, along with advising our clients and providing them with the best practices that are out there. So, looking forward to, again, building out our focus facts area and again, providing the community with these data insights. As you mentioned,
sorry to interrupt before we move on.
Sure.
Are there, another question for you guys, is there a limit to the number of focus facts a BELA member company can request?
Right now, as far as the custom data slices that we have available, we have 4. But we like to support our community. So if it's within reason, we have a team of experts. They're pretty good at going in and slicing the data, if you will. So certainly can speak to the specific needs of our customers for sure. So at this point in time, the membership agreements say 4 custom slices over the course of the year. But again, we're here to support our customers. So happy to talk specifically about what the needs are and how we can best support them. Thanks for that question. Keep them coming. So, Erin, I know you just mentioned upcoming, and it's fast approaching. March 13th and 14th is our Global Ethics Summit in New York City. And I know Susan and Erin, you both have attended, and I'm interested in knowing how did you gain value from attending that summit. So Susan, would love to start with you this time. Susan, are you still there? Hello, Erin?
Yes.
Hopefully you can hear me.
I'm here. I apologize. I don't know why I lost my audio. I think I might have muted myself by mistake. What I would share is I had the benefit of going to quite a few conferences last year. I think the BELA event had great variety and lots of different breakouts that you could choose to attend. I actually attended the event along with the head of my ethics office, as well as the individual in charge of our compliance communication and training program. So we could sort of divide and conquer and get to as many of the sessions as possible. I thought you had great speakers. I thought the time was managed really well. So we were able to ask a lot of questions that helped us shape our own strategy, which I thought was really helpful. And we actually stole one of the conference rooms. We ducked into one of the conference rooms at the end of the last day, and we spent a couple of hours comparing notes from the different sessions. And we actually did an analysis of our own program and came back with specific areas that we thought we were towering strengths in, and some other areas where we absolutely had opportunities to improve. And that really formed the basis for our ongoing strategic plan. And that was something that came directly from that event and just hearing the experts and the questions coming from your other member companies. It was great.
That's great, Susan. So developing that plan, and I'm assuming you came back and presented that to your leadership.
We did.
I'm sure they were able to see a great return on the time that you spent at the event. So thrilled to hear that. Erin, I know you've attended the last 2 years, and interested in hearing about your experiences.
Yeah, so I echo Susan's comments just about the breakout sessions, and the content was great, and there's a lot of different focus areas. So we were there with our ethics office, and then we also brought our culture team, our head of culture, because she's responsible for inclusion and diversity. And so last year's topics there's a lot of topics on the inclusion and diversity topic, and as well as during the conference, there's a lot of great speakers. The panel discussions where, the Q&A with the experts, I just found it to be extremely valuable. Of course, like all the other Ethisphere type events, you're networking, you're getting to meet people, across industries, but, the agenda that you guys have planned, at least the last 2 years I've gone, are topics that are timely for what I feel like the industry, the business industry is dealing with. And so we just found it extremely valuable, and there's really great information shared. And then in the breakouts, I do think you can get into more details because there's someone leading and facilitating the discussion and sharing what they're doing, but then there's a lot of time for Q&A and to talk through what each company is doing as well that is participating in that breakout. So it's very well run, one of the best conferences in this space that I think I've attended.
Yeah, Erin, thank you for those comments. And we're thrilled with this year's agenda and our faculty, and really appreciate your comments. What we really want to focus on at all of our events, the BELA Roundtable events, and of course our summits, is really fostering that peer-to-peer discussion. When you come to one of our BELA Roundtables, you'll always hear from one of your peers. Same with our Global Ethics Summit. We want to foster that peer-to-peer discussion. And I know our team will be very happy to hear of your experiences in the past. And I'll tell you, this year's agenda and faculty is really just so impressive. And hats off to our team who's building that agenda and securing those speakers. So for additional information on that event for our audience, you can always go to the events page at ethisphere.com and take a look at that agenda and the faculty that will be available at this event. So with that, Clea, I just wanted to ask any additional questions from the floor this time?
Yeah, a couple of comments. Let me just read through. A question about potential academic BELA membership. So if you could talk a little bit about the academic version of BELA, that might be useful.
Fantastic. As a matter of fact, we do now have an academic program, and it is, again, specifically built. There are membership benefits that are specifically built for the academic community. And we're thrilled to connect with the member of the audience and follow up with that person and present and discuss exactly what their needs are and how the academic membership would align with their needs.
Great. And then another question about the types of content that are on the Member Hub and what all BELA members and their teams, given the enterprise membership of the BELA community, what types of content there are.
Yeah, fantastic. Absolutely. On the members-only website, there's really kind of three pieces or three buckets of content, if you will. It is research, white papers, presentations. There are archived webcasts that Ethisphere has curated on behalf of the community. That second bucket is really the data slices, those custom data slices or the focus facts, if you will. Those are the data-driven insights that we have built for the community. The more popular topics, if you will, are available there. And then the third piece is that Centers of Excellence or the member shared content site. Happy to, again, connect with members of the audience on a one-on-one basis, review the Center of Excellence, review the content that's available there, but very happy to again, provide what we call enterprise-wide membership. It's like Erin mentioned earlier, being able to share that content, not only within the ethics and compliance department and team, but also across the organization, working with corporate citizenship and responsibility, working with your governance department, working with your diversity and inclusion organization, and to share that information across the organization. Clea, any other questions?
Nope, nothing else at this point.
Great. Well, as Clea mentioned, there'll be a recording available Again, happy to connect one-on-one. If you want additional information, you can reach out to me or to info@ethisphere.com. Just want to, again, say to Susan and to Erin, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. It's really wonderful to hear about your programs and your involvement in the Business Ethics Leadership Alliance and how we're supporting your efforts. So with that, I want to say thank you again to everyone for joining. Appreciate your time, and please reach out if we can help in the future. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.